All right, all you devils out there, how you doing? Happy Friday. Here we are, May 8th. Of course, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin today. What an interesting spot we find ourselves here as we're just brushing up to 10K here. Now, before we get too far into this, just a reminder, you can come over to our site. The link is directly under this video in the description. You know, if you've got time on your hands this weekend, you can join us for free. That'll get you access into the Discord. You'll get free access to the White Belt course, which is, I've mentioned a few times before, is no lightweight material. We have quite a few people that think such, find themselves failing it, and then back to try again and again. It's designed to challenge you. That's the point of it. Right? And then very common, we'll see people will join us for free. They'll get a taste of the content and they'll be challenged by it. And then having gotten through white, they'll want to progress into the upper belts where it gets even more challenging. So we want to challenge you with it. That's for your benefit, not for ours. It's not just about making it hard. It's about making sure you retain the information. That's why we test you on it. Unlike so many other educational services where it's, you know, here you go, there's a chart, good luck with it. So you'll also get access to some of the Discord channels. You get early access to any crypto deep dives, such as the one I'm about to do here. And we share, we probably give you more than we should. We do live streams and other things because we want you to feel like you're part of the community and not just isolated to one little channel. So I think you'll find that it's a welcoming community, and it's a good place to learn. So like I said, if you've got time on your hands this weekend, right? I guess we're all still predominantly inside. 4 hours of content in that white belt course. Right, just keep that in mind. So there you go. All right, with that said, I think that's all I've got. It's marketing related. All right, let's get back to Bitcoin. So here, a couple of things here. So I have this channel on it. Seems to be framing it rather nicely as we've tagged the upper edge. And this was a pretty, everybody and their brother had drawn that trend line here. It was interesting when we tagged it here, but now that we're to and through, I think now what's more likely here, it having gotten through, if we're going to come back, that's just the kind of thing you might see a test from above. Now, that said, so you don't want to lose track of it, but because of the huge, essentially, right? So what, me being a bull, what I see here is a three-wave correction. But because of the extremes here particularly, this is a good example of where a regression channel helps you contain all of that information here. So note how we cover this and then tag that right to the tick, right? Interesting, right? So here'd be the median, this 2 standard deviations on either side. So you have throw over here, you have throw over here, strength of the downtrend here, strength of the uptrend here. This is a good way to just kind of get an idea of where am I with regards to the trend. So if we can get a little further up here, you can anticipate that some of this structure, and again, depends how far we go here, some of this structure is going to need to be tested by bulls from above. They're going to want to test the supply of sellers here. So, but we're not quite there yet, and we're not completely out of the woods yet. So why do I say that? Well, I'm going to take this off, having just shown you that I think that that's something to keep that has value. It's a good way to look at the market. So now we've talked about this a number of times from this pivot down as we're working up, right? So we had to break the 50, then we had to break the golden zone where we're comfortably through that. Well, of course, when you break one, you've got to go back, check the others. So now I'd like to think that every member's already done this, right? So you've already seen this. Swing high to swing low. What did we just do? All right, that should surprise exactly 0 people. Well, we know Bitcoin is very responsive at the golden zone. So the fact that we've just come up and tagged it from the other side, and that's where we're hitting resistance, so I'm sure that, price action guys will be saying, oh, all that's happening, and we're bumping into this previous cluster of sellers here, right, that are going to defend their position there. Well, that's not an unreasonable position to take. You've got a pretty good cluster here. You can just kind of pull this all across here, looking at all of this after all of this movement down. So we are still, just looking at it here, tested again. So bears, right? They still may have their day, right? This still is very much, well, of course, right? We're gonna have a target down here at 1300. So I know bears are looking at that, going, okay, that's what's coming. Right? So it makes a market, right? People disagreeing about where we're going here. I do not think that's what's coming. All right, shit. I mean, if you've been watching me here on YouTube, or if you are a member, you know that I'm very bullish. And I think that as we get through the count here, I do think there's much more to go here. I do think at the very least we'll be challenging this 14K in the relatively near term. And near term, could be over the summer, but I think that's in the cards. Now, that said, we're going to get some information here that will be critical to that, right? So the next thing that happens here, right, we're likely, if there's any pullback as a result of this golden zone, there's likely to be a little pullback here, and then this will be the tell, right? Can we finish this as an impulse here? If we do that, then this likely gets tested from above. So all of this will be the structure that gets tested, and then we carry on. But we are not there yet. So let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet, right? This is the biggie. So what you can see here, I've got an alert just on the other side, 10-5-32. I want to see a closing candle on the other side of that bar. Then, well, of course, then we've got no resistance here until we're looking back to all the way. Well, and of course, right, you guys we all know this. So look at this. Okay, from this swing, this is just, guys, come on, right? So look to that right now. So what do we do there, right? We've all seen this, right here, golden zone. Now look what we're doing here. Yet again, golden zone. So the reason I sit here and say, hey, we're not out of the woods yet. I mean, this looked like, well, of course, it looked like we had an impulse off of the low. We were going to do something like this, and then we're going to keep going, right? So I was bullish there as well. So clearly, right, I'm wrong all the time. I'd be the first one to tell you that. You don't have to be right more than you're wrong to make money, right? That's about money management. It sure is sweet when you're right, but we are not. So have I been right from this low? Yeah. Was I right from here as it was coming down? Absolutely not. Right. And here's the COVID scream, down we go. So really, amazingly, what have we done here? Just a V. Just a V bottom, right? Panic all the way back. So this was, God, what a, you kind of look down here and go, boy, if you're buying under, well, let's see. So that would be, do we get that low? Let's get that low right there. So anything, if you're buying between 3,000 and 4,000, it's been a good time to be a buyer, right? Now, even here, so you could almost look at this the same way and say, just as you could make the statement here that this is sellers defending that position, having recovered here, now all the way back, right? So there's going to be sellers looking to push that down. It's the same idea here. Same idea here. Up we go, down we come, right? These buyers, right? They're defending those longs. They drive it up. It's not hard to understand, right? When you the market's always telling you a story, right? You kind of look here and go, all right, well, I've seen this before. Now, the one thing that was in the midst of that, right, that we want to kind of acknowledge here is this. Right, this swing to this 50, they got to and through target, came down here. Well, we had the free fall day where we had some issues with BitMEX and some of the liquidations here. So that was an extreme, but look, right, we're all the way back, right? COVID, all the way back. That's what they're trying to do with the S&P. Can central banks have that impact? Well, they sure are making quite a push at it. So here we go, right? So so we're but I caution you, just as we came out of this golden zone with this big 3, there's still the possibility we do the exact same thing here. We got to get on the other side of this, and we're not there yet. But it's looking good. So let's pull that off, right? So the tell here, right? There really is nothing. I would not buy it here. I mean, you're buying, come on, right? We don't want to buy right into that. Right, we don't want to buy right into the prior, well, this little cluster here where we know there are sellers there that are going to be defending, and then just looking left here, you got all sorts of reasons why this would be. Again, it's not that it couldn't get through. Shit, it could be here by tomorrow morning. That's not what I'm saying. It's just the risk here is substantial, and it's just the kind of trade where you go, fuck, if you buy that and it does that, you're absolutely kicking yourself, and it's the psychological damage there is much greater than any potential win you get as a result of being a buyer there. Just a suggestion from a friend, right? If I thought it was a good idea to buy there, I'd be the first guy saying buy fucking Bitcoin right now. That's not a good place to be a buyer, right? Just technically, right down here, right? See, so here it's really, you're terrified to be a buyer here. Here it feels like, oh well, we've gone from 3,500 to 10K. It's probably safe now. As soon as you that thought even creeps in between your ears, not a good time to be a buyer. It's when you're scared to death of buying it or scared to death of selling it. That's the emotion you want to be wrestling with, rather than, well, we're all the way back to where we were, probably okay to buy it now. That's not the way to approach it. Now, we being retracement traders, let me say it that way. I'm a retracement trader, and the influence I have over the members here, my suggestion to you would be to wait for a pullback. Right now, I know, right? So what you're battling now is the FOMO. Like, oh shit, man, we're pushing 10 grand. I'm starting to see crypto Twitters talking about 12, 14, 15 grand. I've got, Paul Tudor Jones is buying. Everybody's buying. Yeah. I hear. I get it, right? It's the FOMO is what you're fighting now. Oh, I don't want to miss it if it's really going to run. You got to be careful about thinking that way, right? Because the crowd, the sheep, if you will, that the sheep are the ones who sell it down here, right? The sheep will be the ones that are buying it up here. That's probably the wrong way to say it, but let's stay with the crowd, right? So the crowd feels like, if we break that high, it's safe to go. Careful of that. Let's go down to a 3-hour here and break into this count, because I think I've modified just a little bit as the market reveals itself. You can kind of fill in the blanks, right? When we're down here, we're kind of guessing. Well, it could be. I think it might be. Now that here we've got a series of 3 impulses in a row. So I get. Let's see, I don't want to do it here. I get impulse here. I get impulse here. I get a very nice big impulse here. 3 in a row. So hard to call this anything but an uptrend. Now, bears, right? So bears can look at this. Listen, I've got a few bears on my staff. Bears can look at this and say, well, okay, yeah, you had some impulses, but really all I see here is a 3. Right? And I've got, very, very skilled technicians that are drawing that conclusion. That's not what I'm seeing here, but that's a valid position to take. So there's a subtle difference between I wouldn't buy it here and I would sell it here. Well, maybe not so subtle. I almost never sell Bitcoin. Why take the risk? So what's really sitting here that you're waiting for is that. So we want to come right back. Look here. We want to come right back to this high volume node right here, which is all tied to all of this. This is the big question mark now, because this impulse is likely complete. We can't say that for sure. We're not far enough from this to say, okay, it's done. But what you're waiting for now is that. That's what's going to tell the tale here in terms of how we're going to deal with the halving and post-halving. What do we likely, right? So you can, again, it's kind of buy the rumor, sell the fact, right? So the rumor, having, the fact, okay, the halving comes. Right, are we at Lambo time yet? Well, if not, it would be very, very typical to see the market sell off a bit from that. Now listen, I don't know that that's happening, but that would be. You could certainly see how that would make sense. Now, if it's gonna retrace, well, shit. Okay, now we're back to things we can work with where we can be objective. Well, look, so just even if something like this, right, it would put us right in line with this channel. So. Look at all the things that are here, right? So you've got the high volume node here. We'd be within an Elliott context. We'd be coming right to the upsloping channel that is framing all of these impulses literally to the tick. We come back here. You want to plant the 4 there. That's a trade you want to take. Bull or bear, you want to take that. Because you see, if you're a bear, if this breaks, right, you're going to be out quickly. Either way, you don't need to give that. You don't want to give this all the way down to the 1. Oh, we're going to invalidate the 1. You don't need to give it that much room. If this is going to play, this is just where you'd anticipate it. We start going lower now. The quality of the count, excuse me, the quality of the count starts to break down. We want a high quality move out of here, and that means ideally the 4 comes in between the 23 and the 38, and then it's all in line with all of this structure. All that structure just plays perfectly with it, right? So now this becomes, right, this little nugget right here, right? So that was right before that was the last little stutter before the Corona free fall, right? When the markets went down, everything went down. What were we there? March 6th, before that free fall, this last little stutter here. Boy, just the kind of place where you might spot the A wave here. We'd be at the center channel, then a little bounce, which is right. So that's the sucker move. Like, oh, okay, there we go. Is a short. Now, likely you're going to want to see 3 here. Well, not likely. It's a question of what, you go down to the 30-minute. What do we get here? Do we get 3 or 5? Well, if we get 5, you want to get 5 because we know corrections are not going to be done. Corrections are never 5s. So if we get 5 here, that's just setting up the A. So you get a B there. Now that, if you're super aggressive, right, you could sell that. If you get a 5-3, yeah, you could sell that. I wouldn't. I'm sitting here with my pitcher's mitt going, oh, bring it. Come on. Bring it right in. Oh, I'm just salivating on that. But we're not there yet. All right, so all we know for sure is we've hit technical resistance here. And again, I credit to the price action guys. Okay, I can see it, right? I get it. I get price action. I got it. It's not complicated. Where do I want to see support hold? Right here. So that's about 8,800 and anywhere from 8,500 to 88, high 88. Oh, that's a sweet. That's a trade. You bull or bear, guys, you got to take that trade. Well, fuck, I can't say it that way. I shouldn't say that, right? That's a trade I wouldn't let go by. How about I say it that way? I would not let that trade go by, but I'm not putting I'm putting a stop on it. Okay, right? Let's be smart about how we're approaching getting long here. And this again, I'm so sorry, guys. I really struggle here with these allergies. You're not swinging for new all-time highs here. So if that completes, what are we doing here, right? All we're doing is completing potentially now, per the count, as I'll take you through it, you're just completing the 4, which all it does is set up you're completing the 3 here, which sets up the next 4, right? So these are going to dictate. It's the corrections and how far they go and what's the structure look like that's going to dictate whether we keep going or not. One at a time, though. So per the count, as I have it labeled here now, which I think is certainly it's valid. I've got us going 1, 2. This is the largest degree. Then the next degree, I've got a complete impulse coming out of that. I come back to a 50 here. I've got an ABC into a 50. Now in green, I go 1, 2, 3. I'm seeking 4 there to get 5. If I get that, then I've completed the 1, 2 here. So if I take that all the way off, what I'd have then is from here 1, 2, 3, and I'm waiting for this 4 to go 5. Now we're all the way challenging the 4. Well, that's 14 and change. Now we're off. We're off towards challenging 4. Well, shit. Right here would be the 3 up here. A lot of ifs, a lot of things have to happen. I have to go right here technically with regards to how the market moves. Right? That's all we're trying to analyze. How does it move? Which direction is it going? And when it goes, how does it move? Right? Are we getting 5s or 3s? Right? You really could make it that simple. What's coming next? Right now we're anticipating a 3. Well, pardon me, I should say it in terms of the context here. So what we really want right here is a zigzag. Are we going to get it? Well, Bitcoin rarely does exactly what you want it to do. So we could get a triangle here. There's all sorts of things we could get here in a 4. But that wouldn't be surprising if you got some sort of a sideways motion prior to the halving. Wouldn't be surprised to see a triangle here. Now, of course, I'm just speculating here. I don't have anything. I don't even know that the 3 is done. I just know that we bumped into resistance that makes perfect sense. So if we're going to fall off from that, boy, the next trade, in my opinion, the next trade is sitting here waiting for that 4 to trade the 4 to the 5. So let's just tee it up. So if you can buy it in that range, what are we looking at there? Oh, I wouldn't give it. Well, you probably want to give it to just the other side of the 50. So there's about 4 to 1. I wouldn't give it too much beyond that. Maybe use this little lip here, this little pivot, which is going to come in just below the 50. So just a tick or two underneath that. It's not a home run ball. So I would, if you get up here and you got that, well, you could look at it a couple of different ways. You could take your length of your 1 proposed from the proposed 4. Now remember, I don't have the 4 here yet. But if we get up here, here's the 100. Here's the 1272, 138, very common. So if it's not going to be the 100, so if it's going to stall here, well, that we're just on the other side of the 65 is possible, right? So here that little alert I set is just on the other side of the 65 because there's a gap here between the 618 and the 65. So that certainly is possible here. It doesn't break through the 100 length of the 1, doesn't break through the 65, and that's where you get your next 4. That's certainly possible. You gotta wait and see, right? So something like that, right? Well, now if you only got that, well, now you're only getting 2.8 to 1. It's not quite worth it, right? So think carefully here, right? If we start coming up towards that, you better start seeing there better be good signs of volume and strength, and everything's got to be looking right here because that wouldn't be uncommon. So if I put that back in so you can see it, oh shit, here, let's do it this way. All right. Bear with me. I got to get down there so I can get on it. Okay, there we go. Now let me pull back out. So now you come over here. All right, so look what we get here. So here's the 100, the length of the proposed 1 here from the proposed 4, which I do not have, would be right on the other side of the 65. Now, there's a couple other things here that give you pause that let me take this off and let's get this off, right? So we know, so there's the alert. We know that's just on the other side of the 65, right? The other thing that gives you confidence here in what we've got setting up is the confluence here. So look here, if I take the length of this 1 and project from that 2, well, I'm right at the 200%. So the length of this impulse from the 2. Well, I've got a secondary one, so that's exactly 200%. I've got a secondary 1, 2 here as well. So let's look at that. So get you alpha there so I can get that pivot from this low to that proposed 1 from that proposed 2. Do you see it? Do you see the confluence here? So if I put it right on the 2 low, look at the 1618. It's literally on top of it. So thus here, just using our typical fib relationships, that 2, that's exactly 1618, right? There's the 1618, 175 window. Right as I'm hitting the 618 from the pivot high, right as I'm hitting the 200% from the internal 1-2 as part of that impulse, I got a lot. Well, in addition, I'm hitting the upsloping channel. And I'm hitting the 618 from the top. That is a lot of confluence right there. Oh, and by the way, round number of 10,000. So to anticipate that we might see a little pullback here is pretty reasonable right now. Again, doesn't mean we could be blowing through this. We could be at 12 grand by tomorrow morning. So I'm not, again, big difference between if you're long, you might tighten up a stop, and as opposed to me saying sell it. I wouldn't sell it there. Why, right? You're trying to pick the top. Rarely a good idea. But that said, you would be right back to where I started. You'd be scared to death to sell that, right? So for the scalper, right, there's probably a trade there. I mean, that's a lot of confluence to be right at that moment in time, right at that price, as we're right at that round number. Well, you would definitely fulfill you'd be, I think, a little bit ill at ease, right, to sell into that. But right, to each his own. I'm just going to sit and wait comfortably for that, just like a catcher behind the mound, right? Just give me your fastball. I'm waiting for it. Can't wait for it. Alerts, please, right? Don't miss this. because you weren't aware that it was happening. So you got to be watching for that over the weekend, right? Bitcoin is prone to volatility over the weekend. We shall see. So I don't know that there's much else I can put in front of you here. That's pretty much everything I've got that would relate to where we are, the internal count. It's not bad, right? So this impulse, gorgeous. So you almost even if you work backwards. Okay, clear impulse here from this low here. I don't think we need to argue about whether or not we have an impulse here, right? Clearly, we've got an impulse. Okay, so if I'm working backwards, well, remember this was a perfect 2, right? This was the golden corner. So if I work backwards, okay, I've got the biggest swing of the entire move, and it's an impulse. So that would make you want to think 3. Okay, so if I come back to I've got a perfect golden zone here for a 2. Then I work back to the 1. I've got an impulse off of the 1. No, pardon me, I've got a diagonal. But I do have a 1 here. So I get a diagonal into the 1. I go right to the golden zone. I get all the... Oh, by the way, oh shit. I forgot one. Look what we got there. That's the 1618 from this golden zone. So to add on to the 618 from the pivot, to the 1618 from the 1-2 here, to the 200% from the internal 1-2, let's add the 1618 from this golden zone. Just a few more things to suggest that you're likely going to bump into some, at the very least, some technical resistance there. Again, I'm not saying sell it, but you can understand everything that's going on right there. And oh, by the way, right, the round number of 10K. Amazing, right, that all of that happens at that moment in time where we're, a few days from the halving. I would not let this trade get by me. So one to be watching for. Right, not ready yet. Now, of course, if this kicks up over the weekend, right, you got to drag this with it. And that would be a little surprising, but if it does, right, then where that sweet spot is for that next 4 goes with it, that climbs with it. All right, guys, I think that's everything I got. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, there we go. All right, so keep an eye on this, right? Very encouraging. Good to see, right? Don't forget, right? It's all tied to that big volume nugget. Okay, there you go, right? Don't forget, come on, join us for free. Come on into the Discord, get a look around, meet a few people. You'll find that everyone in there is very cool. It's all like-minded people, right? They're looking to improve their trading. They want to trade with precision. They're drawn to this approach, which I would propose to you. I've looked at it. There is almost no type of trading, with the possible exception of some of the planetary stuff. Right, that I have members that swear by it, but that may be the only type of trading I've never really spent any mental energy into learning is planetary trading. Some very smart people that are members of mine swear by it. So, but my point being, stick with the fibs, stick with the geometry, and where the Elliott is helpful, right, where you can't miss the fucking impulse, where it's like literally, you don't have to. Is that a 3 or a 5? Right, that's where it can help you. All right, guys, there you go. You want to learn a little bit more about Elliott, how to apply it? Come join us in that white belt. All right, guys, have a good weekend. Talk to you later.